I honestly feel like up until the very last episode of Skate the Infinity, I'm going to pretty much within the first couple of minutes say this show is just so much fun. Adam versus Langa officially happened in this episode, and if it wasn't for the cops coming and busting them down, would Langa have beaten Adam? Probably not. It would have been pretty close, I think, but Adam definitely has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. The fact that they trained to basically counter his flipping coming up the hill, he was able to outplay them even though they thought he could only do it on a straight path. So I feel like even though he was doing so well, he probably would have lost. But the fact that for Adam, he's met his Eve, as he says in this episode, it's so over the top, it is so flamboyant, and it is incredible. It's really interesting because Langa says to Reki at the end of the episode he won't pursue Adam, that he will be safe and he won't go after him anymore. But we also see that probably for the first time since he was younger and he snowboarded, he's felt something going up against Adam that he hasn't felt since he started skateboarding, and that's probably a true challenge and opponent. And I love that about this show, is that they have so much excitement, so much over-the-topness. You have Adam in this episode using spectators to help navigate around. I'm not going to be surprised if he dislocated a few shoulders doing that. This show is as ridiculous as it comes. I said it last week, it's one WWE match at the end of the day. They all have their costumes, they all have their gimmicks, certain characters play up the villains, other play up the heroes, but there is this passion for boarding, all things considered, and it's so interesting to see how they're able to use the anime medium to make something completely absurd that most likely couldn't happen in the real world, because goddamn, you would have to have luck on your side on both sides in order to not mess up what we just saw between Langa and Adam just kind of doing this beautiful dance, so to speak, which is both horrifying because they could easily die, and you also don't know what Adam's true intentions are. But it also is just so majestic with how they beautifully animate it and really turn it into such a compelling masterpiece in terms of a visual production. I really like how I honestly thought we weren't getting Langa versus Adam in this episode. I thought this would be the setup episode, as 3/4 of it was kind of dedicated to training, preparing, but also trying to discourage someone like Langa from pursuing Adam because, you know, you're gonna die by the looks of it. But you knew he wasn't going to die, not just because Langa is more skillful than Reki, but because Adam has such a interest in him. I don't feel like he would do anything in terms of being as brutal as he was to Reki. And the fact that, like, even at the beginning of the match, he started to take a drag from his smoke, and Langa just waited because he's like, that's not how this is gonna be. It really does show how much, even though they're completely opposite in terms of their passion for boarding, they kind of see something in the other, and that's such an interesting dynamic because Adam plays up the most hideous and disgusting WWE villain who is just an abuser, all things considered. But because you're in this like colorful underground skating rink, it just becomes something so entertaining that you don't bat an eye against someone dragging the spectators to circle around the ring there. And it's just amazing. I think there's definitely some people who are on the fence saying that, oh, isn't Reki the main character? Why isn't Langa the one who's supporting Reki in order to defeat him? No, they're both the main character. You can look at the character listings. Langa isn't listed as a side character. Langa is listed as a main character alongside Reki. And I think that's one of the things that makes it so interesting to me, because Reki was someone who has a lot of experience skateboarding, but he's definitely more of the kind of board maker. He's the person who modifies the boards. He's kind of the tune-up guy. But he loves boarding and he's skillful at doing it, but he doesn't have the same pro level as someone such as Langa or Adam because, well, Langa's been snowboarding his entire life. He's been doing a lot of insane tricks his entire life, and the natural transition, we've seen how he got to this point. He just is more skillful at boarding, so it makes more sense for someone like Langa to be the one trying to go up against Adam, where Reki is more of the support character as of right now. Based on what we're seeing, based on the fact that Langa is probably not going to give up on his pursuit for Adam, maybe he will for an episode or two, most likely Reki is probably going to have to get into the ring, and I wouldn't be surprised if, like, we see something along the lines of, like, okay, Langa announces that he's going to be boarding against Adam again. Reki has a fit about it and says, you know what, I challenge you. You're never going to board against Adam again if I win, and if you win, I'll never contest you going up against Adam in the future. I could very well see a Reki versus Langa happening in the future, and Reki really having to propel his skills going forward. That's something I totally expect because someone like Reki has said, like, he lost a friend due to boarding. He had such a great injury that he gave it up. And while you know Langa wouldn't, if Langa's not going to give up because of injuries, the only other thing that could happen is Langa could end up dead. He's not willing to wear a helmet because it'll slow him down. He doesn't want to wear braces because that will kind of limit his maneuverability. There's a lot of things that could happen in the dramatic sense, and while they're definitely laying the foundation for that to occur in the second half of this anime, what they put the focus on in this is really showing the chemistry between these characters, even ones I thought were going to be like, the big bad villains like Shadow, ending up being like a really fun supporting character alongside characters like Mia, as then you have what seems to be the main story hook, Adam versus Langa, where then you're going to have Reki try to be a wedge between the two from ever happening. I think they have such a good formula to work off of, and they're really not playing by the traditional formula that you see in sports anime, because generally if we were in a casual, normal sports anime, you would have these two main characters, Reki and Langa. Reki would be where Langa is right now, and Langa would be the one being like, I just joined into boarding, you don't know what you're doing, and then Reki would say, I've been boarding longer than you, just kind of get that drama. It's much more interesting having snowboarder turn skateboarder, and then having skateboarder very fearful of his friend, who, for the first time in years, has found someone who loves the passion as much as him, but is fearful that either he's going to end up in the hospital and give it up, or he's going to end up dead. And yeah, they're both rash, and yeah, they're kind of like contradictory, because Reki was someone who's like, oh, I'm not taking into consideration everyone saying don't go up against Adam, but now I'm saying it right back to my friend. But it's great to see that dynamic, because for a show that's as insane, absurd, and wacky as this, there's actually a lot of substance behind the character motivations and personal stories and struggles. And I really did like it. I thought all the setup was really engaging, and I didn't need to see Langa go up against Adam in this episode, and I would have been perfectly happy. But getting that 5-minute, I thought was great. I mean, I really wasn't expecting the police to come, because when they're building up with this, almost like you felt like you were jumping into warp speed or something. You see Langa approaching Adam, and then the sirens come. It's really interesting, because you would say, oh, was Langa gonna win? Was Adam gonna win? It really feels like if he won against Adam in that situation, where would the story go afterwards? Either you have to stop the match midway, or you have to have Adam beat him, but still continue to challenge him. So I think the best way to do it is by kind of prolonging the inevitable, which the inevitable is Adam versus Langa. It's going to happen again, but now that we have the promise, he's not going to do it in the next episode, but he's going to keep wanting to, and Adam's going to tempt him and tempt him and tempt him. I saw some people say, wouldn't it be hilarious if Adam tries to get with Langa's mom? And last week I was like, oh, that's just a funny joke. I could totally see Adam trying to date Langa's mom just to be like, hey, if you don't want me to hurt your mother or, become your new daddy, you're going to have to board against me. This show is so absurd, and it knows it. It doesn't try to hide the fact that it's corny at times. It has fun with that fact, and it has such great boarding techniques and the way they kind of amplify with the anime medium. This show is ridiculously fun, and every single week I'm probably going to come up here and say that this show is fun, but it's not something that you turn your brain off to enjoy. There actually is substance behind the character motivations, with that soundtrack, with the animation, with the passionate voice acting. It feels like these characters believe in the absurdity that we're seeing, and it really helps the viewer engage with it alongside them. I'd love to know everyone's thoughts about Langa versus Adam in this episode, and the characterization that we got in this episode. Let me know where you think it's going to go in the future episodes, especially in the second half when this is all going to probably pile down upon them. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, share your support, and hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.